Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. I'm a life and marriage coach for moms, wife, mom of 3, and I'm also an Aries, and for my fellow human design nerds, a sacral manifesting generator. This podcast is for women who want to be happier in their marriage as they navigate their journey through motherhood. Even if you're like me. Hey, Kelsey, I'm so excited to have you as a guest on the show and have you share with us more about your journey of pursuing fulfillment in your life as a mom. I know, at least for me in previous generations, fulfillment equaled like becoming a mom, and that was like the peak of our lives. And I'm just really excited to get to be a part of a generation where we get to expand beyond motherhood, have our own goals and dreams, and not be faulted for that. So I think that the listeners of this show are just going to love this episode. So for those who are new to Kelsey, Kelsey is a mom, wife, multi-business owner, and the owner and founder of Mama Has Goals. Thank you so much for being here, Kelsey.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. I am so excited to be here. I have loved listening to your podcast since you launched it and love everything you stand for. So I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. All right. So without further ado, can you share with us where you live, how old your kids are, and what you do?
Yeah. So I live in Napa, California, and my oldest is 3.5. My youngest is 16 months, both 2 little boys. And now I primarily just focus on my business, Mama Has Goals, which is a community and resource platform for current and aspiring mothers. And prior to that, my background is in marketing technology, especially in the wine industry. And then we also have a vineyard property that I'm one of the co-owners of, as well as our family construction business.
So your life is very full.
Yes.
I love it. So I want to hear more about Mama Has Goals. It's actually not only a business, but she has an app, ladies. Like, how many moms do you know started their own app? Like, she's such an inspiration to us all. But can you share with us what led you to create that?
Yeah. And you mentioned that today we're going to talk a lot about fulfillment and what that means in this new generation. And I agree. In the past, it was like you hit these check boxes. And that is really where this all came to be. Is I had to have surgery after my first was born. I had some complications and I'd be put under for one surgery. And that alone started this conversation. But then I actually ended up in the ER and had to have an emergency surgery there. And really, I just found myself questioning, like, if I hadn't made it through these situations, like the first one was a little bit of a wake up call. The second one was like, okay, someone, whatever you believe in, is sending you a message. Like, you need to like evaluate what's going on. And I just sat there and was like, okay, if I hadn't made it through that, my son was only 1 year old, what story would have been told about me? What would I have left behind? Who would he have been like? Tell me about my mom. What would have been said? And I realized that the answer would have been a lot of check boxes. It would have been those things that society told me would bring me fulfillment. Getting the degree, getting the house, getting the husband, the family, the job, really career focused. And I was like, you know what? I don't even know like that I like any of those things. Like, that's great. I'm proud of myself for that version of myself, but none of them really bring me fulfillment. None of them really tell my son who I am. It just tells him what I've done. And that was really where I started questioning, okay, what do I believe in? And I went through this journey myself trying to do that. I found all these amazing resources online. I was blown away by female entrepreneurs like you, putting these resources out there and helping women find these things and pursue what I kind of made as goals, their goals in all their different aspects of life. And that's where I sat. I was like, okay, I, Mama, have goals. I have goals for a labeled pantry. I have goals for making good money and being able to do whatever lights me up and be able to fund that. I have goals for helping people, for creating values in my home and outside of my home that I believe in. And I can't do that all by myself. So how do I do it? And it started for me as a spreadsheet with links and all these things together. And I was like, you know what, why isn't there a platform where the mom's sitting in the recliner in the middle of the night with the baby on her chest, or the woman sitting on the floor of her living room questioning what's next for her, whatever that looks like for you, or sitting at your desk wondering why you're there, but you have to be able to pay the bills, wherever you are, be able to jump in and be like, I need help. I need a resource. Let me find one. And I wanted to create a platform that you could go and search, and whether it's marriage resources like you, or it's how to potty train, how to talk to your child if they're dealing with bullying, anxiety, whatever that is, how to write a resume so you can get in a better place, to be able to have one place to find all of that. So that's what the app and Mama Has Goals is all about. And then connecting with people and actually having conversations about them in the subgroups.
And thank goodness for this app, right? Because otherwise, how long would you be spending on Google only to question, like, are they actually good at what they're trying to teach me? I don't know. I have to vet them. And then you go down the rabbit hole, right? But
Yep.
through this app, you're saying, hey, I've vetted these people. These are quality experts here that are ready and willing to share with you their expertise so that they can help boost you up into getting closer to the life that you really deserve, right? I think moms often kind of settle. They're like, well, I have these things, right? Like you said, check off all those check boxes, like basically the 50s versions of like having a white picket fence and a house, and minus the only having the ability to stay at home, right? But having the possibility to have your own career, or like us, start your own business. So for you, what steps did you take to pursue this? Because that's a pretty big thing for you to like say, yeah, I created an app. That's incredible and highly inspirational.
Well, so bringing it back to first, like it goes in line, even if you're not looking to start a business or start an app, whatever it is that you're looking to create. I always say everyone has different layers of life, and my layers may be different than yours, but we all have them. And so maybe you're not looking to design an app, but you're looking to design your life. That's something I speak about a lot, really looking about what your vision is, the life that you want to create. That really comes to what I break down as a 3-part method, steps, whatever you want to think about it. And that's reflect, research, and connect. And so first is reflect on where you are, where you've been, and where you want to go. So have gratitude and thankfulness and appreciate where you've come from. That part. I always used to say that there were a couple pages of my story that before I handed the book of my life to someone, I probably would rip out, or I wouldn't bring up, yes. Right? I think we probably all have those. But it really took me loving that version of myself and being okay with it. And still, it doesn't have to become the cover page, but being like, this is part of my story, reflecting on that, reflecting on the good things also that are in your past, and then reflecting on where you're at, and then reflecting on where you want to go. Really designing what that looks like. And a lot of, I used to be go, go, go. I know you're into human design. If anyone else is listening and is in human design, I'm a generator, and I
all the power, all the energy.
And for anyone else that's into that stuff, it was very new to me, but I'm also a quad Aries. So I just have a lot of fire and a lot of like going. So I used to just always do that. I would never really understand why I needed time to sit and time to reflect and time to think. So if anyone else is in that boat, it's important. You have to sit, you have to reflect, you have to think about things. And as moms, that's hard too, right? Because people always need us. And being able to find, even if it's 5 minutes a day where you can sit in your car, or it's waking up a little bit earlier, or I'm actually a late night person, so it's staying up past everyone and taking a little bit of time to really just reflect. That is so important. And then once you can reflect and kind of think about what it is that you want to design and where you come from, and understanding maybe why you feel the way you do about certain things, then it's research. Because once you can identify what you want to research, that makes your research valid. And that research can be, okay, I want to create this platform, or I want to design this different part of my life this way. I want my family dynamic to look like this. I have this vision, this dream, what that looks like, researching, okay, are other people doing this? And then that brings us to the third part, which is the connection. There are other people doing what you want to do. More than likely, there's very few things out there in the world that you'll think of that someone isn't doing something that can benefit you or help you in some way. And so then it's finding those people, finding your tribe and connecting with them. And I literally would sit and scroll on my phone. I also want to put a little tad bit in there that scrolling isn't always bad. It just depends on what you're consuming. And so if you're consuming valuable content and your intention behind it is to find new resources or new people to bring you to where you want to go, that's not always bad. Just don't go down the scroll hole, as some people call it. Give yourself a designated amount of time, but even just randomly DMing people. I mean, you and I met online. I've met so many great, amazing people by sending a DM and being like, hey, I love what you're talking about. Can you tell me more? Hey, I'm interested in starting my own business, or I'm interested in doing family walks with my family, or I want to do that with my husband. Can you tell me how you did that, how you got started? And just send a message. Most people want to talk to you, and most people are nice and want to say, hey.
Yeah, I love that you bring this up, because I was just in a Facebook group. I don't remember which one, but someone was sharing her struggles with really finding her tribe, finding people that she really feels like she gets along with, her husband gets along with their husband, and their kids get along with. There are so many different things that need to like line up for that to happen, to have that tribe. But the beautiful thing about, I mean, COVID is many things, right? But there are benefits to what we just experienced and continue to experience. But it's really built more of a way for us to connect virtually. Like, you don't have to have a tribe that's just within driving distance or even in your own neighborhood, although that's ideal, right? We can meet people anywhere in the world that tick off those boxes for us, where you can connect on a regular basis. Like you shared, like you connected with me on Instagram and then I met you in person, right? That was incredible. And so not limiting what's possible for us just because we are restricting ourselves to view things as like, okay, it has to be in this way, and anything outside of that I won't consider. And that's the beauty of connecting with people. They help you think of different ideas, and they help you connect with parts of yourself that maybe you've forgotten, or maybe you don't give yourself permission for. So speaking of permission, right? I don't know any mom that doesn't ever experience mom guilt. Right. So how do you handle mom guilt while pursuing your own passions and projects? Like, I know you say you stay up late, but I'm sure there's times where you're using up time where you sometimes think, well, shoot, I'm taking up family time doing this. Right. So how do you manage all of that?
Yeah. And, one thing that I want to add before I kind of talk about the mom guilt portion of it, because I know a lot of your listeners are talking about relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mom guilt isn't just about your children, right? It's really about guilt with all the people connected in your life.
Yes.
And staying up late is a great example. Is if I stay up late, I'm not going to bed with my husband. And regardless of the intimacy part of it, it's just nice to be able to go to bed together, right? And so being able to work through guilt as a human, not just a mom, I think is really important. But there is that whole other mom part, because you're responsible for those little humans, right? So that's a different layer. And for me, I started noticing that mom guilt came up for me in my community with two common themes. It was a lack of confidence and a fear of judgment from others. And going back to that reflection and really designing what you want your life to look like, that's how you can start to overcome mom guilt. And I think it's a process. I don't think you're going to wake up one day and mom guilt's just going to go away. It's situational, right? So each situation is going to arise. You're going to be like, oh, that's another one that I feel guilty about. But then you're able to process it and work through it instead of just like sitting in the guilt or not executing what you wanted to execute on and working through it. But when we're clear on our life, personal, professional, family, and marriage vision, they're all separate but combined. When you can really identify what that looks like for you, then you can make aligned decisions. And then you don't have guilt around your decision as much, because you say, this is in line with my vision. And it may not feel super good right now. And I may have to work through a couple of things. I may need to explain myself for myself, not necessarily for that person, but also for that person to understand. And then you can know that you're making the right decision. Even if it feels a little off in the moment, you say, this is an aligned decision for our family vision, for my personal vision, for my marriage vision, whatever that looks like. I'm making this decision because it's in alignment with this. And then you can work through that lack of confidence and judgment from others, because you can justify it to yourself. And if you feel the need to vocalize that to others, you can. But being able to break that down and say, okay, daughter, I'm going away on this retreat because mommy needs this time to go do this. And this is why. And honey, I'm not going to actually be able to stay for your whole basketball game because of this, but it is a part of our family vision to be there for this part of it. So here's where I'm going to feel that family vision. And here's where I'm going to fuel my personal vision and how they're connected. And when you can kind of find those buckets and work through those various things, then you can slowly work away at that mom guilt and you go, nope, I'm living in my alignment of my vision. And then you're able to look at it.
Yeah, I love that. And I even want to add that, you know, taking care of yourself is included in that vision too, right? Like you cannot keep burning yourself down to the ground. That's not in alignment with achieving whatever vision that you have, right? And just giving yourself that permission to have purpose-driven decisions, right? That's another way of thinking of making aligned decisions. Like, okay, well, I want to be a patient mom. Okay, well, just hanging out with your kids all the time is not going to be it for you, right? It's also going to be doing the inner work. It's also going to be making sure you take care of you, right? Going to hang out with your friends, connecting with your husband or your partner, getting enough sleep, eating well, you know, like all that stuff. It's not just like, okay, I have to be productive all of the time, even if maybe you are like Kelsey and you're a generator and you have like infinite amount of energy, right? She burns out too, I'm sure. She has those moments where like, oh crap, I need to take a pause and take care of myself.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think that for a while I tried to convince myself that I didn't need that. And I think the realization for me was that I could perform go to a level, but that level of where I was performing wasn't the level that I wanted to be at and where I wanted to go. And I was convincing myself that just because I was executing and hitting check boxes and buckets, that I was doing good, but where I wanted to go needed that rest, that self-care, that aligned and purpose-driven decisions that we're talking about, because I can execute, but more methodically and strategically create the life of my dreams and goals when I actually slow down to think about it and work in aligned action instead of just executing.
Yes. And for those who are still in that, like that self-judgment phase of like, I have to be productive. I have to get this done. I have to be this for these people. Like, take a deep breath, right? We've been living in a very, very overly masculine world, and it's okay to stop and rest, right? Because all the time, when we give to ourselves, we can actually become more efficient, more effective, as opposed to just pushing yourself the whole entire time, right? Like, I don't want to go too far off topic, but as women, our energy waxes and wanes in cycles, right? Like your menstrual cycle, if you aren't aware of this, right, you have 4 different phases. And so your energy can peak for a certain period of time and your energy can just like be completely zapped. So if you're judging yourself for being lazy, think about where you are in your cycle. Okay. I think I got to make an episode about this, but I just wanted to add that in for those who are like super judging themselves for not having consistent energy from day to day or week to week. We're not built to do that. Okay. No. Whereas men have 24-hour cycles, we have, 28 to 30 something day cycles. So give yourself grace.
Yeah. And, I think that brings up a point of like, which buckets do you want to live for and how do you balance those different commitments? Do you mind if we jump into kind of talking about that a little bit?
Yes, let's do it.
So I think that people will always ask, like, how do you balance all the things? How do you prioritize all the things? And overall, the answer is we don't, right? If you see a mom, doing that, whether it's on Instagram or walking by you at the park or pick up and drop off at school, that's only such a small sliver of their life. They're not doing it all. And if they are doing it all, because some women try really hard to do it all, they don't do it by themselves. And I think that that's a really important point is they don't do it by themselves. And so I think it's really important to, again, talking about those visions in those different categories and what you want to create. One of my favorite exercises for that is if you're listening and you're not driving, I encourage you to close your eyes and just kind of think about yourself, however old you are, at your 80th birthday party. Think about being at your 80th birthday party and everyone's there to celebrate you. They're like, it's your birthday. I'm so excited. You've lived such a beautiful life. This is what you've created. Everyone's around talking to you. Your children are there. Everyone's coming together. And your oldest child stands up to give a toast. And they give a toast to you as a mom and at your birthday and what they want to speak to, the type of person that you are. And they're speaking to the time frame that they've been your child, right? But maybe they've heard stories about prior to that. And maybe they are thinking about some specific things that other people have said to them about your mom is a great friend because of this. And your mom is a great business owner or employee or homemaker for these reasons. And a spouse or a partner for these reasons. And a parent because of these reasons, and in the parent community for these reasons. And what are those things that you want that person to say? And I think that's how we can balance all of those things, regardless of where we're at in our cycle or the day. It's really breaking down and saying, okay, to me, because for everyone that's different, first of all, give yourself permission that your design of life doesn't have to be the same as anyone else's. What you see as success, what you see as your perfect home, your perfect family dynamic, that's up to you. It's not up to anyone else. And or Pinterest, yeah, or Instagram or whatever else. It's what is up to you, what makes you feel good. And so when you think of at your 80th birthday party, your oldest child sitting there and explaining who you are in this way, what are the things that you hope they touch on? What are the things that you want to stand for? And how can you bring that into your week now? So for me, some of those things were being a good friend. I want to be a good friend, but I'm also really busy. So how do I set those boundaries and how do I do that? And I was able to pull that back and say, okay, well, if I want to be known as a friend that was always there, I want to be known as a friend that someone could count on. How can I act in that way when I have such a limited number of hours? And so one of the things I implemented is I try to take about 5 minutes a day and I go through my phone and I text 1 or 2 people every day and I just check in with them. I say, how are you doing? Is there anything I can support you with? I'm thinking about you. Takes me less than 5 minutes. I don't always remember because I'm human, but I try every day to text 1 or 2 people and just say, hey, checking in on you. That was something that was important to me. If it's maybe how you're checking in with your spouse or your significant other, checking in throughout the day. Michelle has so many great techniques on this that I'm sure she could speak to even better. But for me and my husband, it's taking a lot of time to talk. We take a lot of time to sit and talk with each other. That's really important for us and our relationship. And for your kids, we think that we need 6 to 8 hours a day of playing with our kids. But truly, like 10 minutes of designated time with your kids will make their day, make their life.
Quality over quantity, ladies.
Yeah. Quality over quantity with anyone.
Yes.
And, being able to sit down and say, hey, so-and-so, we're going to sit down, we're going to play. What do you want to pick the toy or do you want me to? Do you want to pick the game or do you want me to? And, screen time's not always horrible. Like watch a movie together and then talk about the movie with your kid. Say like, did you like this part when this happened or this was going on? I also just saw this thing the other day that was like, if you need a break and you don't want to read to your kids, then listen to an audiobook together.
Yes.
I thought that was so good. If you're tired and you don't want to read, lay in bed with them and just listen together. And, that 10 minutes a day of that routine and having that time together is really how you can come back and think about all those priorities that we have to juggle and all those balls and how do we actually navigate being this person, doing it all with our cycle being the way that it is, with, society throwing things at us and news and whoever knows what else, and be able to come back and go, okay, what are the pillars of me and how do I show up in small quality increments daily in each of those pillars?
Yes.
And that's just, to me, that changed my life. And I'm actually going to give your community a little guide that can help them walk through these things. Yeah. And you'll just help you think about it and how to design your week so that it can fall back and you can be like, oh my gosh, I'm doing these things without even thinking about it. Because I'm sure there's some people listening that's like, I don't even know how to fit in a shower today.
Yep.
I've been there, right? And so if you're in that boat, if you're listening and you're like, sounds great, I want to know my pillars, I can't even get clothes to wear. I had no clean underwear this morning. Maybe that hits you. Been there, totally fair. But I'm going to help you walk through kind of a workbook in how you can design your week. So again, life is 90% of the time. I do not expect you to like wake up one day and be like, I am crushing it 100%, because we are evolving human beings. So
Yes.
each of these things are going to evolve, but be able to walk through and be like, wow, I like almost can turn part of my brain off or give it back to myself because I'm able to kind of hit these different things. So I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you so much for giving us that. I'm excited to take a look at it. And I mean, I think the main takeaway for me for what you just shared is, even if life isn't how you want it to look like right now, and even if your goals seem really unattainable or far out of reach, just know that all you have to do is break it down into small steps. You know, even if you improve your life 1% each day, like that shit adds up.
Yeah.
It really does. So like, just like how you said, okay, take 5 minutes to text someone. You could do that on the toilet if you wanted to. They're not going to know. And the people that you're close to, they probably think it's funny, but like you could totally do that while doing something else, because it doesn't take too much of your attention, right? You don't need your full on like, okay, I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. This is like something that needs high focus. Like, no, you could just like spend so little time just checking in with someone to build that foundation and nurture your friendships, if that's something that you're really looking to expand on. And it makes such a big impact on their day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you brought a smile to someone's face to think that you thought of them. Someone other than their kids thought of them, right? And not needing anything from them, but rather like, how can I support you? Because moms also like often feel like who has my back, right? Like if I'm taking care of my kids and I'm taking care of my husband, who has my back, right? So I think that's a really beautiful way to kind of just lead and influence others to be like, hey, I got you. And of course, if they have the capacity to, they're going to do that right back at you, because you're basically saying, this is the type of friendship that I want. And that's really beautiful.
Yeah. And I think we so often think that friend needs like an hour phone call a week or anything else. They don't. They need a text message here and there. That's really all anyone wants, is to know that person's there when they're able and ready to hang out or have a call, maybe, but really more just like a text, like, oh yeah, I do have friends. Great.
Yes. Or even just sending them like a funny meme, like, hey, this made me think of you.
Yeah.
That's really nice too. Yeah. All right. So, let's see. We talked about gratitude and we talked about desire, right? How do you balance feeling grateful for what you have today and still giving yourself permission to want more? There are so many women that I talk to, they're like, they feel bad about asking for more, or even spending time dreaming of something even better than what they have today, because it makes them feel like they're complaining, but it doesn't have to be that way. You get to do both, right? So can you tell me more about how you handle that?
Yeah, this has been such a big part of my journey because, like I said, when I had that realization where I was in surgery and waking up with my son and was like, whoa, this isn't really the reality that I want to leave behind. I then got to this point where I was like, what's wrong with you? You have such a beautiful life. You've created these great things. People would kill for some of the things you've accomplished. And it took me really doing some work to be like, okay, gratitude doesn't negate desire. And that was, people talk about affirmations and the things they have to tell themselves over and over again. There's I am statements and there's different things that you can say. For me, for a period of my life, it was every morning, gratitude doesn't negate desire. And then also, and this will be in that guide also that I give your community, but writing down what is something you're grateful for, because it's easy to say gratitude doesn't negate desire, but if we don't leave a place for gratitude, then it does. So being able to constantly find that gratitude each day in the small things, but then also allowing ourselves to have that desire. And so for me, it really came from just breaking down what that meant for me. And for me, it meant evolving and growing and becoming the person that I wanted to be. What we were grateful for and what we desired 5 years ago shouldn't be the same things that we desire now. We may still be grateful for those things, but we will hopefully desire new things because we are growing and evolving. And I think that a great example for you and your community is marriage. Like, let's talk about this in terms of marriage, right? So I always hear people say, well, you knew what you were marrying, or you knew who you married.
Yes.
I don't buy into that. So my husband and I met when I was 18 years old, right? If we hadn't changed at all, if for the rest of our lives, for 70 years of marriage, I said, well, you know who you were marrying, I'm sorry, you no longer are married to the girl that could wear mini skirts and, be inappropriate and going around everywhere. And so, I had to change and my husband changed. And I believe a strong marriage, a strong, person, we work through those changes. We work through that evolution and we desire new versions of ourselves. We desire new versions of our spouse. We desire new versions of our job and our business. That's why people excel and get promoted. That's why people look for new places to excel in their business. And they want their kids to grow, right? If our kids never learned new things, if our kids didn't go into new things, then they would be stagnant. So we want to grow, we want to evolve, and we want to be grateful for what got us to that next place. But if we don't allow ourselves to step into that next version of ourselves, to desire more, to play the what if, that's, something that I highly recommend for couples when maybe you're not at a place that you can enter that right now, but if you work with Michelle, you can get there and you get to a place where you can play that what if with your family and in your spouse. And that has been huge for me, for myself, for my kids, for our marriage, to say like, well, what if we did this? What if our life looked like this? What if we could have these things? What if those things that we've already created that we're grateful for were stepping stones to allow us to become to a point where we could give back, that we could serve? If we don't allow ourselves to desire more, then we can't help people also, right?
Yes.
And we can't support our children the same way, or ourselves, or different things like that. And you talked about self-care. I think that's another great example. If we desire to have more self-care or more time with our girlfriends or time alone or investing in ourselves, and we don't do that, like, let's just use one of your programs as an example, right? Maybe, if you don't know, if you just stumbled across this podcast, Michelle has an amazing program for women to learn about themselves to help their marriage. And if a woman didn't step into that, then maybe she's not getting the life she desires in her marriage, or not becoming the mother she should be for her children, or things like that. So sometimes we don't step into that desire because we think, oh, it's just for us. It's selfish. It comes back to that mom guilt, but really it plays a part in all these different areas of our life. And we can't create those next versions of ourselves and our families and our desires if we don't lean into those desires. So for really breaking it back down is, if you don't allow yourself to wonder who you can be or who you can become or the things that you can create, you're really doing yourself a disservice, because we are meant to grow. We are meant to evolve. And once you acknowledge where you've come from, those pages that we don't want to rip out of the book that we talked about, or that we do want to rip out, but we can't, and the things that we've been able to evolve into, then we're able to really step up into that next continuing level. And again, going back to that 80th birthday party image, think about if you didn't lean into all those desires, the different stories that would be told versus if you did at that event. So that's my feedback. That's where I sit with on a daily basis, is what do I desire and what am I grateful for?
I love that so much. And, I just want to piggyback off of what you said. If you are not leaning into or allowing yourself to desire more, you are robbing your loved ones of seeing you at your fullest. Because you're settling. You are not allowing yourself to be the happiest you can be. And when you do that, it affects how you interact with other people, right? Like, I want you to imagine a time where you're hanging out with your spouse and they're like, you see them come alive, right? It almost makes you feel like you're falling in love with them all over again. You're like seeing them in their element, passionate about something. They're alive. And you're just like, wow, that's the guy that I started dating. That's why we're together, right? If you allow yourself to speak it out into existence, like, hey, what if we got to the point where we had multiple properties all over? Like, that's what Kelsey and I were just talking about before we started recording. What if we were able to, go on vacation as a family multiple times a year and money wasn't an issue? Like allow yourself to get to that place. Of course, like if you have other challenges, deal with that first, because you need to get to a place where your relationship can have those conversations. If you're struggling with communication, like tackle that first. But if you are in the place where you feel like you're pretty good, but things are feeling a little stale, add that layer of desire into the mix. It's going to change so much for you, and bring the kids into it and ask them, what do you desire? What would be cool for you? Like, oh, I want to be an astronaut. Amazing. What can we do to help you, get closer to that? Instill that by modeling it as how you live, how you make decisions. And like, this is why I love Kelsey so much, right? Like, she's just so like, I want this. How can I get it? Like, what do I need to do to get it? So,
and I think like the thing, I totally love everything you're saying. And what it reminds me of too, is that, when we're talking about the conversations with your partner, so many conversations in the home can be the execution conversations, right? So-and-so has practice. So-and-so has to go to school. We need to clean the house. We need to do this. Like, there's a lot of chores and tactical conversations. And so maybe you and your partner, like you said, aren't in a place where that feels like a conversation you could even approach. But the thing is, it's a fun conversation, right? And so it puts a place for you and your partner to connect again on a fun level, not on a chore level, not on a, hey, you didn't hear me about picking up your socks conversation. It's being able to have a fun what if conversation, because realistically, like, we're gonna have both, right? Because we're humans, and my husband is not going to pick up the socks again or close the cabinet, but he's also going to help me dream, and he's going to help me talk about these different things, and we're going to have that fun conversation. And so when you can allow that fun as a part of it, and like you said, model it for your kids, it becomes second nature. And the thing you said is, I do live in a place where we play what if a lot, and we say, okay, how can we do that? How can we get there? But I also want to give everyone permission listening that you can change your mind. So if you do play this in game and you get there and you're like, well, I said that would be cool, but actually I don't think it would be cool now. And just for like a tangible example is about a year ago, my husband and I were like, what if we took the family in a trailer for a year and we visited all these places? And we were like so gung-ho on it for like a month. Like, we were looking up trailers we were going to buy. I don't even know how we were going to execute this at the time. Like, we both had jobs that we had to be present for, like, but we were like, wouldn't it be cool? And we did this all out. And then we got to the point where we're like, you know what? Both of our kids are under 3. That actually sounds horrible. And for our family, for me and who I am, the more I thought about it, of not really being able to do laundry or dishes the same way, or like the real things, I was like, I just don't think that is for me, actually. But how could we create that same desire? And so what Michelle was talking about is our family is actually going to take a couple of months and go stay in a couple Airbnbs in different places. So it took us a whole nother year to take that original what if conversation and figure out how it could fit into what it looked like for our family and how we could actually execute that and make that happen. But having those conversations, being in that playfulness, and being so grateful for the home that we have, and being so grateful for the people in our life that we have here, but still desiring some different experiences for our family, allowed us to go, okay, how do we be grateful for what we have and turn that into our desires that we have in a way that makes sense for us and our family?
Yeah. And notice how much partnership was involved throughout the whole thing, right? That's good for your marriage, to be on the same team, to share a vision. I love going down the rabbit hole of like, I think recently I just said like, I really want to go to Hawaii again. I didn't know how it was going to happen, right? We all have full schedules and whatnot, and responsibilities to take care of, but I just put it out there. And then next thing, I see a deal on Southwest, and I was like, we have enough points to buy tickets for everyone. Can we do it? And so we did, like, we worked together to figure out like, okay, when's a good time to go? Okay, what island do we want to go to? Who wants to join us? And when you're in that, like, it's almost like you're in a, like, what am I thinking of? It's like you put yourself like in this box, in a good box, because when we think of boxes, sometimes it's bad, but like you put yourself in this box that like incubates your dreams. Like you're both
Mhm.
on the same page. You want to do whatever it takes to make it happen. And you're just so full of excitement. You're like giddy, almost like you're a kid at a candy store, like, oh my gosh, mom gave me $5 and I can pick up whatever I wanted, like.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So I just love that this is a very like easy approach that anyone can really work towards or start doing on their own and in their family and reap so many benefits from it beyond just like beyond getting closer to goals, even in the moment, even in the research part of it. It could
Mhm.
be fun too.
Yeah, and I think it is. And then you guys, it gives you something to talk about each day too. Like, here's what
Hmm.
I found today about this. Here's what I found when I was researching this. And it continues that conversation. And a couple of things that I just think are smaller for anyone that's like listening and they're like, we don't have the money to be able to do any of those things, or we don't have the time to have those long conversations or anything like that. Maybe it's even just you cooking a meal together. Like, how can we cook a meal together? Or how can we go for a walk together?
Yeah.
Or how can we draw a picture together? Or each night at dinner, we're going to each say, what are we grateful for and what do we desire? Like, that's the easiest place to start. And then being able to connect from that, because I know it's very hard to get out of the day to day of like all the things that you have to do and all the things that you have to hit. But if you don't step out of that at least a little bit, then you won't allow yourself, like we said, to get to those desires, and you're really doing a disservice to yourself and who you can become.
Yes, it's really easy to live a life of autopilot. It's like, it's almost like driving while asleep at the wheel, like, but you have a Tesla and it's like driving for you. Like, sure, you'll get through life, but you're not really in control.
Yeah.
Right. And so taking a moment to reflect and follow Kelsey's process is what will really help you feel even more alive and in control of your destiny. Like, I don't know if that sounds too like cheesy, but that's really true. So, Kelsey, you have an app.
Yes, we
Mama
do.
has
I do.
goals. I am loving the co-working sessions and the calls that you run. And I'm really excited about all the different resources that you're offering and connecting us with all these experts from all different kinds of fields. Can you share more about the app with our listeners?
Yeah, definitely. So our app community gets access to these calls also. I'll touch on those first. And so each week we have a call. And right now, depending on when you're listening to this, but right now our framework is that we start the month off with a goal setting and intention setting call. And that is, what do you want your month to look like? And this is not just for professionally. I personally look at my life in three pillars: personally, professionally, and as a family. And I put marriage in with family. Because I think for my life, I consider it one thing, but you could make a fourth pillar, if you will. And what are your intentions and what are your goals in those different areas for the month? And how can our community help support you? And how can the app help support you in that? Then each week we have a goal check-in and a co-working call where we come together, check in on those goals, have things changed. Like I said, I'm a big fan of changing your mind. So if you have a different goal or things that you want to look through, what does that look like? Or how can we help you push through? Then we have a Q&A session each month where we bring in a resource like you, Michelle, or someone else, where we have an informal question and answer. Hey, I have a question on these things, this topic. Ours in June was Paige Chons, and she speaks about how to support your child along sports, specifically female athletes, and how can you have confidence in and off the field as a tween and teenage daughter, and how can you support them in that way. Then we do a more training session where we bring someone in, and it's more of a 30-minute training session. And then we ask questions and have kind of a co-working after that, or connection after that. And then we end the month with a celebration, because like we talked about with the gratitude and the desire piece, we have to celebrate life. We have to be grateful for where we've come. And we always have something to celebrate. Literally, for a part of my life, it was washing my hair every day. So like, or for that week, honestly. So being able to celebrate whatever it is that you're working on. So those are the things where you can connect with people. We talked about at the beginning how we met online and how I've met some of the most impactful people in my life in containers like this, in virtual spaces where I can jump on a call and connect with someone. It is hard to make friends, especially as a mom, in person and get there,
Yeah.
especially if you're a working mom, because a lot of the mommy meetups are 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, and you probably have to be at work. But being able to navigate through that is really great. And I'm hoping that I can help as many people do that as possible. Then we have the subgroup community. So anything from like a mom that likes to travel and read, to adoptive and foster parents, to toddler kids, tween kids, grandparents, even, to being able to connect with people that are in the same season of life as you and interest. You know, when I started this, I heard from a lot of people in the community. They're like, you know, I post in this Facebook group, but all the people in the Facebook group are new moms, or they aren't kids, their kids aren't the same age as mine. I want to connect with people that have the same interests and the same things going on in life. So that's what the sub community and the pods create, is that dynamic. And then the Mama's Filing Cabinet is where we have resources like you and different female entrepreneurs coming in and helping you navigate through life with actual tangible trainings and resources that you can watch on your own convenience, your own time, whenever you can fit it in. All of the trainings are 30 minutes or less, so you can get those done even just plugging in your pods while you're doing the dishes is one of my favorite ways to do it, and then reading through whenever it fits your life. So love to have your community in. I'd love to give you a promo code for your community so that they can come in, they can get the first month free. We'll maybe I can give you a link you can put in the show notes.
Amazing. Yes, please.
Perfect. And
awesome.
Then we'll also put that guide in for your community, which is exclusive for your community. So I'll make it so it's really special for you guys, and start with that and walk through a couple of things. And, you know, Michelle and I can speak, I know I can speak for her because I know her heart, are always here for you, and you can jump into our DMs and connect with us and see how we can support you.
Yes. Everything. I just love everything you just said. All right. So what is the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, best thing is I manage all my messages on Instagram. I love chatting with you. You can chat with me at Mama Has Goals, MOMMA has goals. And my website is mamahasgoals.com. I have a text list. If you'd like to get on that, let me know. And otherwise, I'll see you in the app.
I love it. Okay. Just for fun, I love to ask guest questions. That was a mouthful. So that our listeners can get to know you better. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So what's a food you can eat every day and never get sick of?
Sushi. I'm obsessed with sushi.
Yes. What's your favorite fish?
Probably salmon or tuna, but okay. I really don't discriminate. I love it all.
So awesome. What's your favorite thing to do for self-care?
I love walking and hiking. I get the best thoughts when I'm outside. And I'm a big music person, so I love listening to a hike playlist and going for a walk or hike and getting just super inspired that way.
Love it. Yeah. What's something you said you'd never do when you become a mom that you now do?
Probably so many things, to be honest. That's funny. The first thing that I feel like everyone talks about is, you know, navigating screen time, but I didn't have really hard opinions about that when I became a mom. I just kind of wanted it to not be something that I just hand over right away. I don't know, you know, this morning, my oldest woke up and wanted to come into our bed at 3 a.m, and there was zero part of me that was like, no, I just grabbed him and put him in bed. So there's that, just navigating. But I would say there's so many things. And I think why I'm having such a hard time answering the question is because I'm still changing that constantly, right? So something that I would say like last week, I believe in just like situational. So
yes.
You know, just being able to navigate what fits best for us each week. And we just kind of go with the flow in that way.
Yeah, totally. I feel like every child I have, I'm done, by the way, but I have 3. Every child I have, that list grows.
Yeah.
Like the first one, you're just like, we are not doing this. This is how it is. And then the second child came like, okay, I'm just too tired. Like, let's just do this. Like, we're just surviving this week. And this is just what we're going to do. And then the third child is just like, you know what? Just throw it up in the air. We're just going to do what we need to do.
Yeah. And I think like, I just try to operate it as you can always bring it back the next week. Right. So like something that I maybe did this week that I wouldn't normally do, I would maybe try not to do again next week and make it a habit per se, but I'm not against it happening once or twice, you know?
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because, you know, during our busier times, let's say like both my husband and I are busy, we'll literally just give the kids cereal for dinner. And like, we feel a little bit of guilt because it's like, oh, we could be cooking for them, but it's like, no, our well-being is important too. And they are like, yes, this is
So fun.
amazing. And it creates memories for them, right? They're like,
Yeah.
this is awesome. I love you.
I love that like meme that goes around online. And it's like, I used to think my parents were so cool for giving us pizza on Fridays.
Yep.
And now I know they were just tired.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's so real.
So true. All right. 2 more questions. What's something you're really looking forward to?
I shared with you that our family is going to take a couple months, and the first place we're going to go to is Arizona. And we're going to see if we want to hang out there for a longer period of time or if we want to travel a couple other places. But I'm really looking forward to that. Where we live in Napa, my husband grew up here, and he did move away for college, and we met in college, but we've been here for a long time. We have the greatest support system and community here, but we're just really at this place in our lives where we know kind of what I was talking about earlier. To hit that next level of ourselves, we kind of have to make ourselves a little uncomfortable too.
Mm-hmm.
And our kids go to daycare. Our youngest isn't in school full time, but we want to really navigate what our family looks like and what that means in terms of care and the time we spend with them, what our businesses can be kind of changed and how those can be held. And so I'm really excited for just kind of playing in that and really identifying what that means for us. And there's a lot of unknowns, but I'm just excited to be okay with that. And I'm, like I said, kind of a control generator, and to be able to kind of just like look at things with ease and peace and navigate what that looks like.
Sounds adventurous. I love that for you. All right. Last question. What's your favorite song to jam out to? You said you love music. So what's something that you've been loving right now?
Gosh, I have so many. If anyone messages me on Instagram, I'll share with you some of my favorite Spotify playlists that I've created. But the one that comes to my mind right now is their song called Unfinished, and I actually can't think of the artist. I'll try to pull it up real quick, but you can find it on Spotify if that's where you listen to music. That's where my place of choice. And what I love about that song is it talks a lot about the things we talked about today of like evolution and becoming who you are. And so it talks about like, I am unfinished as a human, and I'm unfinished and I'm still going and going through. And if I'm ever having like a down day, or I'm just like, also, even if I'm in an okay day, but I like need to hear like, you're still going, you're inspired by this, I love that song and jamming into it. And the other one that always gets me in a good mood is This Is Me from
the
movie
Greatest Showman.
The Greatest Showman. And I actually heard that song before I saw the movie, and love the song so much. And there's actually a video of them first rehearsing it together on YouTube.
Oh my God, I cried so much.
It is so good. It's like it builds up, and it is so good. It is such a good video to watch. And I love listening to that song. And I do think, like you said, with the video, like watching that first, and then now every time I listen to the song, I have that YouTube video, like the behind the scenes in my head. And it just gets me so pumped about life, like being like, this is me, whether it's me as a human, my family, my like mom life, to be like, this is what I'm creating. This is why, this is who I stand for, unapologetic, and defining what you want that to look like. So those are like 2 of my biggest like pump up, like I'm going to kick butt today songs.
Hell yes. I love that so much. Well, that's all we have for today. You gave us so much. Thank you so much. I loved having you as a guest, and I'm sure we'll have to have you back in the near future. But thank you so much for your time, your gems, and I'm really excited for our listeners to connect more with you.
Thanks so much for having me. Can't wait to connect with everybody.
Bye. If you like this podcast, then you'll want to join my private Facebook community, Marriage and Motherhood. The fights and the disconnect you're currently experiencing doesn't have to be how things go for the rest of your life. If you're ready to give your marriage a makeover, come join the Marriage and Motherhood community to learn how to create a healthy, happy, and connected marriage that you actually enjoy and your kids can look up to. Thank you so much for listening to the Marriage and Motherhood podcast. I hope that this episode helped you deepen your relationship with your husband and, more importantly, with yourself. I hope to see you inside the Marriage and Motherhood community, and I look forward to supporting you in there. Otherwise, see you back here next week. Bye.